Adding a new campaign event to his schedule this week?
Right. He's actually going to be this afternoon in Asheville, North Carolina for a campaign rally. He also has a rally on Saturday scheduled in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. But we are just getting word that, in fact, he will be holding another press conference, this one at his Bedminster Club in New Jersey. This is going to be taking place tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Of course, we all watched the Mar-a-Lago press conference last week play out over the course of more than an hour. And the former president and 2024 Republican nominee, who has been highly critical of the Democratic top of the ticket, Kamala Harris, not having done a sit-down interview or taken frequent questions. He is somebody who is now trying to contrast himself by going before the press in multiple circumstances. And this one is a new commitment to go at 4:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon from his Bedminster Club in front of the press yet again. Jose.
Yamiche, meanwhile, Tim Walz has his first solo appearance as Harris's running mate. What are we learning about Harris and Walz's campaign plans today and throughout the remainder of this week?
Well, we know that Governor Walz, as well as Vice President Harris, are going to continue to push back really, really hard on Republicans, and really also not just push back on them, but mock them in some ways. At his first solo event, Governor Walz talked about the fact that he believes former President Donald Trump wouldn't know the first thing about doing things like making a McFlurry or working in fast food or doing some of the things that middle-class Americans have to do in middle-class jobs. So we expect to hear more of that sort of tone from them. He's also going to continue to defend his military record. And as Vaughn said, he really is eager to get on stage with J.D. Vance. I remember the first time in Philadelphia when Governor Walz talked about the fact that he really wanted to debate J.D. Vance, and you can consider that continuing to be something that he wants to do. We're also learning that the Harris campaign, the Harris-Walz campaign, has a robust calendar ahead. We know that Governor Walz now is going to be heading to Omaha, Nebraska. He's, of course, a native of Nebraska. This weekend, he's going to be holding a campaign event. Then on Sunday, there's going to be a bus tour, one-day bus tour that's going to feature both Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, as well as their spouses. So 4 of them, they're going to be going through Western Pennsylvania, starting in Pittsburgh, and doing a number of sort of retail-style kind of politics stops. So it's not going to be the sort of big campaign rallies. Instead, it's going to be sort of more intimate. And then we're hearing next week, though the plans are still tentative, that there's likely going to be a rally held by Vice President Harris and Governor Walz in Milwaukee during the DNC, which is, of course, a little head-spinning for us. We're covering the campaign, but they are going to be traveling, it sounds like, till Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and while, of course, the DNC is going to be having their event in Chicago all week.
You know, Vaughn, a new round of Cook Political Report Battleground poll shows a very tight race between the vice president and Donald Trump. The polls show Harris leading in 5 states, Trump ahead in Nevada, and the race is essentially tied in Georgia, but all these leads are within the margin of error. Trump will be in North Carolina today, as you were telling us. What are you hearing from the Trump campaign about the state of the race as the momentum clearly appears to be in the vice president's favor?
Right. The numbers didn't look like this a month ago. Now, you know, polls are one thing, and the Trump campaign, their advisors have contended that the dynamics of this race have not changed since Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket. They believe, in a couple of these key states here, that they believe that they have a coalition that they know will come out in support of Donald Trump. And that when you look at some of the numbers among some of the different demographic groups that they believe are crucial to Donald Trump's pathway to victory, they have not seen those numbers fluctuate. And they believe that his favorability ratings are still high enough where ultimately over the course of 2.5 months and after a couple debates with Kamala Harris and a TV ad campaign that looks to undercut her and tie her directly to the decisions of the Biden administration, they believe that this, what they're calling a honeymoon phase, will come and go for Kamala Harris. And they believe that they are positioned here financially and as well as at least polling numbers that they say that they have within some of these key states like Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona to believe that they are in a good position here and to not look too intensely at some of these numbers here because they believe that they are not wholly representative of the way that they see this landscape playing out over the next 2.5 months.
Yamiche Schalcendor and Vaughn Hilliard, thank you both so very much. And with us now to continue our conversation is Megan Hayes, former special assistant to President Biden and former director of message planning, and Matthew Dowd, chief strategist for the Bush-Cheney 2004 presidential campaign and a senior MSNBC political analyst. So, Megan, I want to start with these battleground polls. They're just a snapshot in time, but it's a snapshot of a time when clearly Harris' campaign has momentum. They're actually now going into the DNC, which could even increase their momentum, give them another bump. Is this something that you think could hold?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just these polls in the battleground states. I think there was a poll recently today or yesterday that came out that showed that Americans trust Vice President Harris more on the economy than they did Donald Trump. Those are important markers for the campaign. These are important things to keep moving the momentum forward. I'm one of those people that you can't live and die by the polls because they are just a marker in time. But it shows that they have the momentum. It shows that they are, gaining the support with organizing, financial backing, and all their fundraising efforts. And going into the DNC, they are set up to have a really good fall with all this momentum at their back.
So how do you, Megan, as a professional, how do you orient or focus the campaign going forward to keep that momentum and to translate that momentum into actual votes the 5th of November?
When the vice president took over, they had over, 1,200 employees on the ground in battleground states that are going knocking on doors and organizing and doing all of the hard work so that the actual infrastructure of the campaign was in place and ready to go before the president steps aside. So they will just continue to move those folks forward into to continue to knock doors. And now they just have more people that have volunteered and more money that will help them organize. And so they just need to be in these states and they need to be talking to voters. And she needs to be out there, and Governor Walz needs to be out there, and they need to define who they are and introduce themselves to America and continue to show what they're going to do to move the country in the next 4 years and what their vision is.
Matthew, when you see both of these organizations, the Harris-Walz organization that really inherited a lot of it from the president's organization, right, re-election campaign, and then you see the Trump Vance organization. Matthew, how do you see those two organizations per se, and how do you think they'll each be handling the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think all political campaigns, as Megan knows, are reflective of who's at the top of the ticket. And there's two elements of a campaign that are, I think, the most crucial part of it. One is message discipline, how the candidates and the campaign stays on message. And the second part is organization, your infrastructure in the states, as Megan talked about, the number of volunteers you recruit, how you operate, all of that. In both of those cases, the Harris-Walz ticket is way ahead. They're much more ahead on message discipline because Trump just can't stay on message. It's just not in his capability. And two, when you look at the analysis of who's got organizations in the given states, the Harris-Walz is way far ahead. And so to me, in the less than 85 days left, where each day is actually, you have to try to win each day, the Harris-Walz effort today is much better positioned to win each day or win more days of the 85. Trump has to catch up in both organization, and he has to figure out a way not to be his chaotic self and establish some level of message discipline.
Message discipline for Donald Trump is no doubt going to be a very difficult hurdle to pass. I mean, this is what Trump said, for example, Matthew, in his conversation with Elon Musk just the other night. Listen to this.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone.
So this is, Matthew, this is what we're talking about. But, the UAW then filed a federal labor charge against Trump and Musk for illegal attempts to threaten and intimidate workers. How does he stay on message? Like, for example, the whole message of Trump has been, I reach out to the rank and file union members, maybe not the leadership. But is this going to, for example, have an impact on those voters?
Well, the first thing I would say is you don't go to a platform hosted by Elon Musk to establish message discipline. That is your first problem. So Elon Musk is not the best place to establish what you want. The second thing is he's now done this key states in this election, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada. Arizona, all have this dominant force of union workers that if they're activated and enthusiastic behind a candidate, which is what they seem to be moving towards with Harris Walz, it's a very, very huge problem from Donald Trump. And I noticed this morning the Teamsters president who appeared at the Republican National Convention, who seemed to at times be playing footsies with Donald Trump, ripped into Donald Trump this morning about that exact interview, saying, how can you talk that you're going to be pro-worker and pro-that when you take pleasure, you seem to take pleasure in firing people. And so it's another example of maybe Donald Trump thinks it's message discipline because he's going out of his way to piss as many people off as possible. So maybe that's some level of discipline, but it's not helpful to his campaign.
Megyn, I want to meanwhile play for you what Trump said in an interview last night about his plans to deport millions of undocumented immigrants in the United States if he's reelected. Listen to this.
You have to give the local police the authority. Our local police know everything about the criminals that have come into our country. They know their names and their middle name. They know where they lived, what country they came from. We'll work with the local police, and we have to get them out.
Megyn, I just was wondering your thoughts on this, because it's not only a line of attack against Democrats, it's also a specific policy position that includes the deportation of millions of people.
Well, I think that his fundamental premise here is wrong. A lot of the people who are coming into our country are not criminals and don't deserve to be treated that way. And they are people and they are coming here for a better life. So no one is arguing that there needs to be comprehensive immigration reform, more border security. No one is saying that there shouldn't be. And no one is saying that we should be working towards that, which the Democrats did try to do. But to refer to people coming here as criminals, and it's just degrading to people. And it's just not a way you should talk to folks. And it's just another way that, people need to listen to what Donald Trump is saying. He is telling people exactly how he feels, whether it's about union workers, whether it's about immigrants coming here from other countries. He is telling people exactly how he feels about people and exactly what he will do. People just need to listen.
Yeah, and Matthew, just people do need to listen to what they're saying because, it matters. But the issue of immigration, and it's so politicized on so many different sides. To hear the platitude of immigration reform is important and necessary, and we have to be, tougher on the border. Those are all things that are just, I've been hearing them for decades. And I'm just wondering, Matthew, is this a position and a policy that matters to people throughout the United States? And will people just say, well, okay, that's what you say. What is it that you're going to do? I'm just wondering if the only clarity is I'm going to deport millions of people. Is that enough, Matthew?
Well, no, it's not enough. Obviously, first of all, it's not only not enough, it's not something the majority of American people want. I mean, that's the problem with it, is that the Republican position, while very heartening to a part of their base and encouraging, say, mass deportation, the American public has two fundamental principles. And we've had this conversation. They believe, on one hand, we ought to have border security. On the other hand, they have big hearts and they want to be compassionate. And most people also understand one of the main reasons and drivers of the last 3 years that our economy in the United States has far exceeded the economy of almost every other developed country in the world is because of